You know, we live in exciting times. The great Jewish prophets in the Jewish scriptures, they predicted the exile and the return of the Jewish people twice. Now in 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire finally thumped on Jerusalem and finally hauled what was left of the Jewish people off to Babylon. And 70 years later, in a miraculous return, the Jewish people were allowed to return to Jerusalem, rebuild their temple, and start their lives again. The second time was 70 AD, when the Roman Empire finally sacked Jerusalem and spread the Jewish people throughout the world. They dispersed them throughout the world for about 1900 plus years. Now, remarkably, something has happened in our relative generation, which is 1948. The Jewish people returned to their homeland for the first time in 1900 plus years. They maintained their culture, their religion, their language, spread throughout the world. When has that ever happened in history? I'll take you to some of this scripture really quickly to see how dramatic this is. I turn to Isaiah 11. In Isaiah 11:11, it starts, "In that day the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the surviving remnant of his people. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth." It's remarkable to see that in 1948, after this nasty Holocaust in Europe, by the slimmest of margins in the UN, the vote was taken to allow the Jewish people to reestablish Israel as their state. Let me read further. I go to the prophet Ezekiel now. Ezekiel in chapter 37 says, "This is what the sovereign Lord says, I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them from all around and bring them back into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land." Now, we live in remarkable times. And then in 1967, the Israelites actually retook Jerusalem for the first time since it was sacked in 70 AD by the Roman Empire. That's nearly 2,000 years later. What a remarkable time in history. I jump ahead one more to Jeremiah in this case. And Jeremiah in chapter 23 tells us, "So then the days are coming, declares the Lord, when people will no longer say, 'As surely as the Lord lives, who brought the Israelites up out of Egypt,' but they will say, 'As surely as the Lord lives, who brought the descendants of Israel up out of the land of the north and out of the countries where he had banished them. Then they will live in their own land.'" You know, I'm often asked, hey, if all this prophecy is real, if all of these prophecies are in the Bible, why don't we see prophecies fulfilled in our own time? Check it out. Open the newspaper. Go online. What's happening in the Middle East today? We live in remarkable times.